there are egos in this business, and there are people who just also will just walk past you as you're falling down and not help you. And, those people sometimes are your greatest teachers. The people who weren't that nice to me, or the boss that, didn't really want me, inherited me, but didn't want me, can be your greatest teacher, because it is in the tough times that you really discover who you are and who you're meant to be.
Welcome to the Next Level Journalist, where you will hear from some of the best journalists in the business, or who have been there, done that, and willing to share with you what they've learned so you can get better, faster.
My guest today is a network news anchor and reporter. She's also a coach and a speaker. Debra Alfarone, thank you so much for making time for this conversation today.
You are so welcome. And just to let you know, I'm a network correspondent, but I'm not a network anchor.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. You do a lot of different things. And one of the things that appealed to me, when I came across your social media feed and pages, was just how encouraging and motivating you were to other journalists. You provide a behind the scenes look to what your day looks like. And I think that's, incredibly inspiring and motivating for people who want to get into this business or want to climb, that ladder of success, if you will. And so it was really a no-brainer for me to reach out to you. So again, I thank you for your time and what I know of an impact that you will make in just less than, 30 minutes or so.
Thank you. Wow, this is so flattering. Of course, why wouldn't I be here? This is awesome.
Well, I'm one of those people, it doesn't hurt to ask. You'll get plenty of no's along the way. So again, I thank you for your yes. And without wasting any more time, let's jump into this and let's give people an idea of Debra and when this all started for you. What got you interested in what you're doing today, and just talk about, your road to where you are today.
So my road, only a half hour? I got a lot to say about that.
I know.
I'm kidding. I'll try to shorten it up. I always wanted to tell stories. I was a kid that wouldn't shut up. So much so that when my parents were driving on a road trip, they would just give me food and candy and drinks to shut me up, because otherwise I'd talk the whole time. I like to talk. And so it was natural that I'd become a TV reporter. This was not my first career. My very long, drawn out story, shortened up, is that I was a high school dropout. I grew up in a home that was chaotic, and my parents split up, and I quit school. I basically cut school so much that I couldn't even graduate if I wanted to. And so I cut school, started working just, locally as a cashier, and really never knew that I could reach the heights that I've reached. Actually, wouldn't even, if you told me then, I would have laughed you off no, never, ever. How can I do this? And so my whole story is a testament to persistence and positivity, I swear, and asking. So anyway, I drop out. I start, eventually I get my GED. I start working here and there and work in offices, and I work on Wall Street. And I wanted to tell stories, but I just didn't know how. When you have a career already, how do you leave that and then go work in TV? I didn't know anyone that did what I did. I started at the bottom, and I basically started a cable access show just to understand how to use the equipment. But I started at the bottom, and my first job in TV news was at New York One. I was a news assistant making $10.50 an hour. And I would drive around the 5 boroughs of New York City, and I would shoot VOSOTs. And I didn't even know what a VOSOT was, and I was still shooting them. That's how long ago this was and how bad I was. I don't know. I think really they only gave me a chance because I had called and asked so many times. It was probably a better idea that they just give me the darn job than have me call again. And so I worked my way up from behind the scenes at New York One to made my first reel, had a couple of people along the way who helped me and mentored me. Started at a small station on air called SI-76. Doesn't even exist anymore. Was a small station in Staten Island. The other person who came out of that station was Alicia Vitarelli, who works for ABC, 6 ABC in Philly. And we both worked there. She was further along than I was. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. We figured it out. And from there, went to News 12 Connecticut, got an opportunity there. From there, went to NBC Connecticut. From there, went to Pix 11 in New York. From there, went to DC and WUSA 9. And now I work for CBS NewsPath. And none of it was probable. All of it I worked really hard for, but mostly it was because I asked, and then I asked again. And sometimes I asked 10 times, like literally. This job I've been asking for years.
So talk about what else you do. I mean, we see you on TV, but you're also, like I mentioned in the introduction, you're also a coach and a speaker. So again, you're not just that person we see on TV, but you're also, what I love most is that you're helping other people along the way, get to where you are.
Well, I have a lot of knowledge from all of this stuff I've done. So what am I going to do? Take it to the grave with me? I figure I can't. I always say to people, listen, you don't want to come over and have dinner. Like, I'm not a great cook, but this stuff I know. So I will tell you anything I know. It's all here. Take it. Take my knowledge, because I want people who are in this business to have a voice. And if they feel they have a voice, they can give voices to other people. They can help amplify other voices. So it's not just me telling stories. It's me helping other people to get their confidence so that they can tell stories. So I started this coaching business because I was always the person that people came to for advice. I mean, even if, like, I don't know, I'm going to break up with my boyfriend, or my friend is being a jerk to me, or that one said this to me, or how do I put together my reel? It was always people at my desk. So much so that I wouldn't get any work done, and I wouldn't get my own reel done too. So I started coaching people, and I left my last job at the local CBS WUSA 9 here in DC, 2018, I believe it was. Yeah, I had to think about that. And it was a natural fit to start this coaching business. And in the beginning, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I figured it out. And I loved entrepreneurship. It is the ability to sit at my desk, in my house, in my PJs, and come up with whatever I want. Whatever I can come up with anything. And I just loved being in charge of my own business. And so I've been doing that, but then, you get out and they pull you back in. Is that what the saying is? Just when I think I was out? I don't know, that's some movie line. But anyway, I ended up coming back and working for CBS NewsPath. Now, along the way, I did a talk, and so that begat other talks. So I'm a speaker too.
That's great. That's great. Debra, what do you think, and you've already hinted around, I know about some of this, but what do you think you credit your success to when you look back and even look forward, the stuff that you will continue to do to help you be successful?
I still have a practice. I still work hard. I still have to do the things I did back then now. It never gets, it gets easier. Like, I can do a live shot about anything. I can talk to you all day here. Like, we could do a 7-hour show here and I would never run out of things to say because I can fill. However, being on network TV, you gotta get it right, and you have to be confident. And so I have to work on that every day. It's a practice. When you get in your head and you think, I don't know if I can do this, I'm not good enough. Because let's be real. TV news, like, people are all like looking at the other person and what they have and thinking, well, why don't I have that? Why does that person have that and not me? Or you're at this market, but you want to be at that market. And not everyone's that nice and not everyone's that helpful. So I think that what I credit everything to is positivity, being really nice to people, persistence, asking, and when I get a no, asking again as if I didn't get that no, like not taking it personally, just asking again. And really, I have this practice of getting out of my own way. We all have small thoughts about ourselves. Every one of us does. And if you don't, then I want to meet you because I don't know who the hell you are. Like, who doesn't ever feel inferior at times? I still go to the White House and go, what the heck am I doing here? Look at this person, they know so much more, and that person, they know so much more. But I have to remember and do the practice that I know to get out of my own head and go, no, you actually are enough the way you are. And everything has brought you to this moment. And the people at home, they need to hear from you. That's how that's how this works. So I have to do that all the time.
That's great. Debra, what do you think the best advice you've received over the years? And I know it puts people on the spot because sometimes people are like, wow, I've learned so much in this amount of time. But is there anything that you can look back on and say, that advice that I've received from so-and-so really helped move the needle for me in my career?
Wow. A couple of things. I can remember two things that, speak to me specifically. Like everyone's got their own shtick, their own thing that they're working through. Two things. I had a photographer friend, Bob, who said to me, Debra, what if you only gave 80% today? Like, would it be okay if you just gave 80%? Like, what would that look like? And I just worked so darn hard, and every word was really important. I was just so intense about things. It was like, I was just so into it. And you know what? This is just a job. At the end of the day, and I can say that now, that I've got the award or I've got the job, but like, this is just a job. And I think I took it too seriously at times. I wish I had a little bit more of my joy back. So that's one thing. The other thing, the other bit of advice was literally, it wasn't even advice. It was just a friend of mine, Matt, who was my assistant news director in Connecticut. And he said to me, we having a heart-to-heart in his office, as we would have, and we confided to each other like our biggest dreams about this business. And I said, I really want to go to New York. And he told me, and I remember it, he said, you can go to New York. I could see you there. Yeah, you could do it. That's it. It wasn't even advice. It was literally a couple of words from someone who I looked up to and trusted, because he was an assistant news director. I was like, oh, you know stuff. And that really helped me to get where I needed to go, to have someone else validate my dreams. And that's why I spend so much time validating other people's dreams. Anyone can get anywhere. If I have a CBS News email address and I was a high school dropout once, you can create your life to be anything you want.
Yeah, that's a pretty incredible story. Your testimony, like I said, that was part of what, that I had to connect with you and your story when I read your bio and I saw, how can someone get from this to that? And the fact that you feed back into other people. Because I remember what it was like when I was in the business, that there were not a ton of people, going out of their way to help you. And that's what attracted me to connecting with you. Because here's someone that, has been there, done that, and you're still doing it, and you're helping others along the way, which unfortunately, I feel like in this business, it's kind of a looking out for number one along the way, but it doesn't seem like that's what you're doing.
Yeah, well, those people who are looking out for themselves, what are their lives like? Must be pretty lonely.
Yeah.
And if you're being a jerk, because they're jerks, right? There's some people who've been jerks to me. I hope that you know that you could have been a different way. Like, you don't have to be a jerk. Like, there are egos in this business, and there are people who just also will just walk past you as you're falling down and not help you. And those people sometimes are your greatest teachers. The people who weren't that nice to me, or the boss that didn't really want me, inherited me but didn't want me, can be your greatest teacher, because it is in the tough times that you really discover who you are and who you're meant to be. And I know that, sure, this job is great, but there was a time I took it very seriously, and maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to take it so seriously, and I could have taken myself a little bit more, I could have had more grace with myself and know that I'm not just an anchor or just a reporter. I am a human who happens to be an anchor and a reporter. And I got that later on. I mean, you grow up and you learn, but it's just, my greatest thing that I want to leave this earth is leaving people knowing that they are worth it and they can do anything they want. That has nothing to do with journalism. Right.
Well, you already touched on a little bit of your challenges. If you could look back and some of the challenges that come to mind, what does come to mind? And two, how did you respond to those challenges? How did they, challenge you, and how were you able to grow?
Oh, I remember being terrible at live shots when I first started out. And a boss said, keep it short. I didn't even know to keep it short. Like, I was so hard on myself. I was like, no, I need to say all these things. I need to say them in the way that I wrote them, because that's really smart. Yeah, no, keep it short. Like, these little things along the way. But I think in the beginning, there's a lot that you don't know that you don't know. And some of the most wonderful people along the way were mentors to me, just people I looked up to that like invited me in and helped me. But trying to think of challenges. I also worked at a station once where the photographers were really mean to freelance reporters. And I remember being like, really, like, how could I break through? They're just not nice. They're actually mean-spirited. And I had a coach, and she was wonderful. She was a voice coach, but she's also a news coach. And she told me, anything that, you're not bringing to that, how'd she put it? Something like, anything that's missing is something you're not bringing to the conversation. So talk to these guys. Like, what do they like to do? Ask them about themselves. Where would they like to have lunch today? If you ask people about themselves and get them talking, they'll like you more, and they might be willing to shoot an extra stand-up or give you some advice. And I remember that was a big challenge at that place, because it just was. And that was good advice. Gosh, I don't even know now. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I get it. It's become old hat to you, right? I mean, like you said, you could walk out and do a live shot about whatever right now. Like I said, that can sometimes be, a tricky question for people, because, there's challenges. Some of them are obvious, but some of them don't. Like, I understand that was a kind of an off the wall.
No, never apologize for your question that got me stuck. That means it was a good question. I think really another thing was, here's another challenge I had. I had wanted to get to New York for a long time. And year after year, I wasn't getting there. I had a spreadsheet, literally had a spreadsheet of all the people that I would call, in my quest to get where I needed to go. This person worked at this station. Can you put me in touch with, the hiring person? I'd call them, I'd email them, whatever. I would keep going and going. And the challenge there was that I was doing a lot of things, a lot of activity, a flurry of activity, updating my reel, building a website, updating my resume, doing another live shot, like, all this stuff, showing it to people. What do you think of this live shot? Like, doing a lot of stuff. And the thing I wasn't doing was the mindset. I didn't have the mindset that I needed. And really, it was just a mindset of being kind to myself and just knowing that I could get there. When I really thought about it, it was just, I thought if I got the interview or I made the connection, that was the win. Because truly, truly deep down, I didn't think I was good enough to be in New York. And when I really confronted that, that's when I got to New York. I had to really confront my own deep-seated insecurity about, can I really get there? But I didn't even know it existed. And that's what I was talking about with the don't know, you don't know stuff. Mm-hmm. But a friend of mine had an insight and shared it with me. And I was like, oh, wow, it got me thinking. And I realized, wow, the only thing, she's like, you work so hard at this. Like, why are you not there? And I'm like, it's me. It was me. I really never thought that I could make it. And I realized that, what am I doing? This is a waste of my effort. I have to believe in myself. And from there, I really visualized it. And also, when you think you can get somewhere, when you think you have what it takes, you act differently. You ask with a different energy. I believe energy is part of a lot of stuff. If you're doing a live shot and you're like, I don't really want to be here, but I'm telling you these things, no one's going to listen. But if I'm like, you got to listen to what happened with this person here, let me tell you, if you've got energy and the right kind of energy, it can take you far.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love that word you used early on, that mindset switch. I think so many people, including myself, I think if you would have told me, 5 years ago that I'd get out of TV because it's all I knew, and I'm doing my own thing as an entrepreneur, that I would have said you're crazy. But once that mindset shift took place, it's been sky's the limit. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I think so many people can pick up on just the, subliminal messages that you're sending, not just the direct messages that you're sharing, but the message behind the message and that mindset thing. I really love that. So, Debra, give us some advice that maybe you can pass along to aspiring journalists. Like I said, you've given plenty of stories and tips, and this is what you did. Is there anything that comes to mind that you haven't shared with, that you would like to share with, someone who wants to be in your shoes one day?
You want to be in my shoes one day? I'm telling you, you got to be persistent as hell. You got to be persistent. Man, the job I have, I had to ask for, and then I had to meet 1, 2, 3 other people after I asked. And each one of those people, it wasn't like I just said, hey, I'd like to meet you, and it was like set up. No, I had to call again, I had to email again. I had to literally pretend I was going to be in New York. I wasn't going to be in New York, but I went anyway and said, I'm going to be in New York this day, and I'll just go to New York. So I lied, if anyone watches this, so that I could be there and be like, yeah, I'm going to be there that day. No, I was investing in myself. I was like, I'm going to be there. Can I meet with you? And sure, I just had to keep asking. And then the second person, I had to ask several times, and she just never got back to me. And I kept asking and asking. And then finally she's like, oh yeah, sure, we could meet. And even when I met her, she didn't seem like, she could do that much for me. She's like, well, I could put your name into this, and that's, really all I can do. I was like, okay, gotcha. And the next person, it was easy. It was no big deal. But you just have to be very persistent and ask. And again, it's the energy with which you ask. So I never took it personally, and someone didn't get back to me. I have 5,000 emails, so I'm sure they do too. I mean, my email means a lot to me. It means nothing to them, right? Like, why would it? It doesn't mean anything to them. So right. I got to keep being the squeaky wheel, but in a nice way. That was the challenge. How are you asking for what you want with the energy of, I know I deserve it. I'm doing you a favor by reaching out to you, because you'll have this person on your team who is going to work hard and has the right skills and experience. And I'm doing you a favor. You have to have that, kind of bring all that to it. So I just feel like you got to ask for things and then not take it personally. And, when you're in this business in your 20s, you're taking everything personally. I took everything personally in my 20s, everything.
Well, yeah, I can only imagine how many resume tapes, because they were tapes when I first started out. I am that young, I guess. But how many, non-responses, that I didn't get. And if I got a response, then eventually being a no. So all you need is one yes for someone to like it. So
the thing about that is, like, I had only 5 yeses. People think, oh, no one ever came to me. I asked and asked and asked, only got 5 yeses in my life. That's it.
That's great. I appreciate you sharing that, because like I said, anyone who sees this thinking, wow, like how in the world did, was she so persistent? And yet, but when they get to know your story and what it took for that, like I said, it's what, I appreciate you sharing that transparency, because, anybody could get on here and said, oh, I did this and this and this, and that's how it worked out. But clearly your road was not one that was paved. You had to kind of, blaze it yourself.
Yeah. Man, I mean, at one point, my assistant news director in New York, I met him, ran into him at an Emmy Awards ceremony, and I had been emailing him for 4 years before that. And so I'm at this ceremony with my friend at this party or whatever, and he walks up and he's like, Debra, how are you? Because of course he knew who I was, because I've been sending him my reel. But yeah. I didn't know who he was, and I was like, hi, hi, creepy person talking to me. And he's like, oh, no, I'm John. I'm like, oh my God, you're John. I've been emailing you forever. And lo and behold, he ended up hiring me about, gosh, I don't know, maybe a year or two. I have no idea how many years, but it was, he hired me eventually.
That's pretty cool. Well, Debra, I want to put you on the spot one more time along the lines of that challenging question. This one won't be as hard though. I promise you.
Okay.
Most embarrassing TV moment or moments that come to mind?
It takes a lot to embarrass me, but okay, here we go. So I'm on a street corner doing a live shot for the morning show in New York. And, you can't see much. You probably can see a lot less than you can even see around me here, because it's a tighter shot. So it's and you don't see that much around me, but as I'm tagging out of this live shot, a man who has cans and beer bottles in a shopping cart is pushing them, and they fall over, and the cacophony, you would not believe how loud it was. If you have a shopping cart, a New York City size shopping cart of bottles, cans, it's going to make a noise on a cobblestone street. And it was oh my gosh, what just happened here? And it all came crashing down on my feet. And I'm there talking, and I kept talking as if because that's the number one rule. Well, one of the many rules, right? But one of the big rules is, hey, if you're doing a live shot, you keep going. Even if you think you lost a live shot, you just keep on going and keep on going. And I did. And of course, at the end of it, my producer, Katia, was in my ear and she goes, Alfarone, what the hell was that? And so I was like, oh, can you, I asked the photographer I was working with, can you pan down? And of course, like I've got like beer and all this stuff all over my pants and my feet and everything was terrible. Another one is, in Market 6 here in Washington, D.C., I was an anchor, and on the weekend, most weekends, they have less people around, and we had this big new studio. It was so big that they had 2 production assistants helping out, one doing prompter and one doing stage direction during the week, but on the weekend, they had just one. And I got caught, standing there and I'm going, like, as in like roll the prompter, like, hello, like, come on. And camera comes to me and I'm like, and like, it's a full body shot too. So I'm like, literally like, I'm like wildly like flailing my arms like an idiot. And I used to do this behind the scenes Facebook Live all the time when I anchored. I loved it. I had the same viewers that would love to be behind the scenes with us, with Howard Bernstein and I, the meteorologist, and they were dying. They're like, why did they do that to you? Why did they come back to you? It was so funny because like whoever the director was didn't know, but of course, my guys and girls were always on my my Facebook. They were like, yeah, that looked funny. Like, I don't know why they caught you there, doing that. Why were you doing that? Like, and I was like, oh my gosh, those guys were great. They'd always tell me like, you're on the wrong camera, when you're like reading like today, this happened. And you're like, okay, they were awesome to have.
Well, Debra, I appreciate your time. I will respect your time because there's plenty of other things we could talk about, but I just appreciate you being here and sharing what it is that you did or what it is that you do, I should say, because I have no doubt whoever sees this, whether they're journalists that are going after, a TV job or someone who's been in it, for years, that they can take some value from this. So I appreciate you doing just that.
Thank you so much for asking me. I had a great time. I would do this again. Let's do this again one day.
I'm going to hold you to that then. I'll be back in touch with you soon then, Debra. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So good to see you. Have a great day.
And thank you for checking out this channel. If you found this content beneficial, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share it with someone you think might find it beneficial as well. Because this channel was simply started and created to serve you, to help others grow, to learn how other successful TV journalists do or did it. So take what serves you so you can get better faster and reach your next level.